Hi everyone, Aiden here with eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Kuat Huk Tailgate pads. These are going to be a whole line of full-length tailgate pads made in a variety of different fits for different trucks. They make these in the compact size for your Mavericks, Santa Cruzes, and Jeep Gladiators. You've got a midsize for your Tacomas, your Colorados, your Nissan Frontiers. You've got the full-size ones that come in two different variations. So whether you've got a Tundra, a Titan, an F-Series pickup, or a Silverado, you can get the one that's going to fit for you, whether you've got a newer generation tailgate that has a large curve in it, or one of the older ones that is a bit more flat. Regardless, these are going to give you a way to carry a lot of bikes in your truck bed, utilizing that space that you already got. You don't have to worry about using your hitch and extending too much off the back of your vehicle. Let's check them out. Now, why would you go for a tailgate pad over a regular hitch-mounted bike rack? Now, for me, there's a number of different reasons, but I think you can kind of see it really well right here. We've got 6 bikes loaded up on the full-size tailgate pad, and for a hitch-mounted bike rack, that's going to be really difficult to load, just because most bike racks are going to be designed for 4 bikes or less. They do make a few that can hold 5 or 6, but it's going to be the really specialty ones, and they're going to be a lot more expensive. They take up your hitch, so if you've got something like a ball mount that you want to leave in the hitch, you don't have that option. You have to swap it out for a bike rack. And then you're going to be adding a whole lot of length to your truck. So a vehicle that's already quite large and maybe hard to drive around with and park is going to be even harder to park with now. Whereas with a tailgate pad, all those bikes are mainly in the truck bed. Even with a tonneau cover, they fit perfectly fine with it partially folded back, and only the front tires and the forks hang out the back, which doesn't really add much length. Now, we saw with the full-size tailgate pads, you can easily fit up to 6 bikes, and then on the mid-size and the compact, you can hold up to 5 bikes on those. So smaller size tailgate pad, smaller capacity, but still more than most hitch-mounted bike racks. I think on our Tacoma here, the 5 bikes fit perfectly well with plenty of room to spare. And on our compact truck, the Maverick over here, we only have 4 bikes loaded up, but I do think there's enough room for a 5th one if we overlapped the bikes just a little bit more. Honestly, in the shop, we just ran out of bikes to load up. So we only have 4 on here today, but I do think you could easily fit a 5th. To get more specific with the sizing of these, it is important to pick the right one for your truck because certain ones will just be too long or too short for your tailgate. The compact size is going to be 51 inches wide. The midsize here is going to be 54 inches wide, and then both of the full-size truck tailgate pads are going to be 61 inches wide. So it's important to pick out the right one for the right truck, because if you get the full-size tailgate pad and try to put it on the Maverick over there, it's just not going to fit. And if we get the compact one and try to put it on our F-150, we're not going to be fully utilizing the space. Plus, there's a lot of other design elements that Kuat has taken into consideration when designing these to make sure that they fit perfectly with the right size trucks, making sure that all of the straps and the flaps for the handles on your tailgate line up perfectly. Now, that flap I mentioned is going to be a piece that you can roll up and have access to our backup camera and our tailgate handle when bikes are unloaded. So if you want to leave the tailgate pad on your truck between rides, you totally can, and your tailgate's going to remain fully functional. But to do that, we have to get our bikes unloaded first. So let's check that process out. It's really going to consist of one strap. There's a buckle system that you can undo, and that strap will wrap around the frame. Here's a closer look at what that buckle looks like. It'll feed through. You cinch it down, and then flip that plastic lever to bite down on the strap and keep it from pulling loose. These are nice because they're fully removable, and you can move them down the length of the pad and space your bikes out however you want. You're not stuck to fixed intervals, which is great because if you've got some bigger bikes that need more space and some smaller ones that can sit closer together, you can do that, and it's a lot easier to fill out your truck bed that way. And where it sits on your truck bed, it's going to have a lot of contact with very thick foam pads. This inch-thick foam pad runs the whole top of the tailgate, and there's a thick foam pad behind it too where that strap is going to sit. So it wedges in there, and there's another foam pad out the front that your forks and your tires will sit on. But when it's all unstrapped, you can just lift your bike up and over, set it to the side, and get ready to go on your ride. And with the bikes mostly unloaded, you can get a lot better look at what the curved full-size tailgate pad looks like. how it widens out towards the center here, where our tailgate also has that curve and juts out a bit. This is going to be a much better custom fit for the trucks that have that kind of tailgate. With everything unloaded, we can see a lot more of the foam padding all throughout. It's very thick and runs the full length of the pad, which is great for protection on your bikes and your tailgate. And this TPU outer material, I think feels really nice. It's going to be weather resistant. You don't have to worry about water seeping into it. But I think most importantly, it's going to be easy to clean. All the dirt on here very easily just wipes away by hand. Add a little bit of water and you'll be looking good as new, which I think is one of the big appeals with this, is that it's going to look good on the back of your tailgate. Plus the material is going to be biodegradable and recyclable, which is kind of neat. On the back, you can see all those different loops that we can feed our bike straps through to set this up. So if we want to change the intervals at which they're set up, we can. And it's nice, again, that you're just not fixed to certain intervals. You can go along pretty much the full length of the pad here to find the right fit for your bikes and your truck. And out on the front, here's that pad I was talking about that will open up with just some hook and loop that holds it in place when closed, and roll up to reveal the handle and backup camera for our truck. There's a hook and loop strap here that can feed through a buckle on the top and back to itself to keep it held open. I think the roll does look a little bit goofy, but honestly, compared to other tailgate pads that usually just fold this whole piece back behind and don't often lay very flat, I think it looks just as fine. This is more of a function thing, just keeping it out of the way of that handle and the backup camera, keeping your truck functional whenever you're driving around with the tailgate pad on. And I gotta say, after testing this with all the different trucks, the fit is great, and we haven't had any issues coming into contact or blocking handles and backup cameras on all the different trucks we tested it on today. With that flap open, we can operate our tailgate just as we normally would, which is great. You don't have to sacrifice any function of your truck bed. And back here, we can better see how it actually attaches to the tailgate. It wraps around with these 4 nylon straps that feed through these plastic buckles and cinch down for a nice tight fit. These are reinforced stitched and have welded seams on the outside. There's no point where there's weird pressure going and getting applied there. And on the outside, same thing, reinforced stitching with these loops, and you've got metal G-hooks that'll hook in and hold tight. We've been using these all day, driven around with them, and they haven't loosened up at all. And the thing I like the most about it is the fact that there's 4 of these straps, 2 on each side, and it gives you a much more even pull. Most tailgate pads will only have 3, 2 on the outside and 1 in the center, which leaves these side portions here to kind of bow out, and it doesn't look very good when you don't have bikes loaded up. Whereas this lays flat across the tailgate, just gives you a nice clean look, and there's better contact around the tailgate, which means better protection when our bikes get loaded up. And as far as how well the bikes are held in place, that's something I've been very impressed with too. Because of where the bike straps are located and how they hold onto the down tube of the bike, they're located a little further down and I think apply a little bit more downward pressure than some other straps might, where they're located more on the top. Because of that downward pressure, it wedges the bike further into the padded section of the tailgate pad here and gets a really strong fit. Not a lot of side-to-side movement here, and once we add multiple bikes, they kind of hold each other in as well. So I think the fuller you load it, the better it's gonna fit, and the more still all the bikes are gonna be. The setup and teardown for this tailgate pad is also pretty straightforward. Because these straps just cinch in and hook into the loops, it's pretty easy to get them undone. You will have to just reach around the tailgate and unthread them, get it unhooked, and pull them through the gap of the tailgate and the bed. Now, depending on the truck you're fitting this on, some gaps between the bed and the tailgate might be bigger than others. On the Tacoma, it's a pretty tight fit, so that does affect the way this is all working. One of the things you can do to make it a little easier is just partially open up the tailgate to make that gap between the bed and the tailgate a little bit bigger and easier to fit those straps through. Now, because you have the metal G-hooks on there, I wouldn't advise dropping those hooks down through the gap, Maybe on a full-size truck, it would work perfectly fine. And on our Sierra, that's actually what I did do. But I think for the most part, what you're gonna wanna do is take your strap, partially open the tailgate, and feed that nylon end up through the gap and into the truck bed. When you're doing that, it's probably gonna be easiest to have it partially open, just resting on your hip, and grabbing it on the other side whenever it pokes up through. So just like that, it'll feed up. You can start it in the buckle. Keep it loose though, so you can actually reach that hook towards the other side. Get it hooked in on the front, and then you can just go through and tighten them all down once they're loosely hooked in place. When it's removed, you can see it folds up very flat, which makes storage in your garage really easy, a lot easier than a hitch-mounted bike rack. And on the underside, I want to point out all of the soft felt lining all over the inside of the pad. This is going to be the part that actually touches the painted tailgate of your truck. And even that TPU material underneath that'll touch the plastic parts of your tailgate, I think are going to be really good quality, not very abrasive to the paint, and keep your truck protected. But that felt underneath is going to take good care of your paint. Now at this point, I've mentioned other tailgate pads a number of times, but I want to make some specific comparisons. The Yakima Gatekeeper is one that myself and a lot of other people down in the shop have compared the Kuat Huk to today, because I think both of them are really great examples of what a high-end tailgate pad can look like. There's going to be some things I like about both, but I think for me personally, I like the Kuat Huk just a little bit more, and I'll explain why. But first, some of the things that I've talked about are the fixed points on the back. So you can see all the different bike hookup points for the Yakima Gatekeeper are completely fixed. So there's no being able to move these side to side and adjust for different bike spacing. So that's one of the things I like about the Kuat Huk better. But with these, I do like the way Yakima sets their bike holds up, using the metal G-hooks for the bikes. I think it's a lot nicer than the plastic buckles that Kuat uses. So it's a bit of a give and take there. One of the biggest things that people down in the shop were talking about though is the fact that the Yakima Gatekeeper has this metal reinforced ring on it. Of course, you can lock up your bikes on either one by just feeding a cable lock through the bike frames and to a tie-down point on your truck. But when you take your bikes out and you leave the tailgate pad behind, nothing is stopping people from just taking it off and taking it for themselves. Whereas on the Yakima Gatekeeper, you can feed the cable lock through this too, and just add an extra layer of security for the tailgate pad. So once you leave and your truck's on its own, you can trust that no one's gonna mess with it. Whereas with the Kuat, there's really nothing keeping it there unless you take it fully off the tailgate. Where the big difference lies between the Gatekeeper and the Huk though is the overall fit. Kuat does have more sizes available, which means it's a bit more custom fit for each truck. Each size is just a bit more dialed in for the different sizes. So Yakima here offers the Gatekeeper in a full size and a mid-size option, and they're a lot more just universal. One of the things we pointed out is the fact that this one only has 3 straps, so it's not going to fit as flush against the tailgate. It's not going to work as well on the newer full-size trucks that have a large curve in the tailgate, like the curved Kuat Huk does, so that's going to bow out a bit more in certain parts there. And you can see on the flap that we open up for the backup camera and the handle how large it is on the Yakima Gatekeeper. And it's because it's meant to fit a really wide range of trucks, whereas on the Huk, it's more dialed in, and you can trust that when you put it on your truck, it's going to be sized appropriately to match up wherever your handle falls, as well as the backup camera, rather than being just a large cutout to be a one-size-fits-all solution. And at this point, if you like the tailgate pad because you're looking at this as a hitch-mounted alternative, but you don't need the full length coverage because you're only carrying 1 or 2 bikes, don't worry, Kuat's got you covered there too. You can check out their half pad, which is going to be pretty much the exact same construction, exact same different method of holding the bikes, but it's just the half size, capable of carrying up to 2 bikes. So perfect for really any of these sizes because it's a more universal fit. Doesn't need to fit around the handle in the same way that all these other ones do because it'll just sit off to the side. And personally, this is something that I would probably use for my own truck because I'm only ever carrying 1 to 2 bikes, and it still leaves the bed largely open for use. You can check out the individual demo on this if you want to learn more about it, but it's one of those things that I think is really unique, and for the people that don't need a full-length tailgate pad, this might be the perfect fit for you. And when it comes down to it, I think the Kuat Huk is a really solid option for a tailgate pad. Whether you're looking for a full-size truck or even a newer full-size truck with a different shaped tailgate, maybe you got a midsize or a compact truck, they've got options for all of it. And that's really where the Kuat Huk excels in my mind, is the fit and the finish. No other tailgate pad that I've worked with has had such a strong fit on all these different types of trucks. And that's just because they offer so many versions of it. They're able to customize it and dial it into those specific trucks and sizes a lot more by having different variations of it. And that for me is why I like it so much. There are a few things that I was a little underwhelmed by, like the plastic buckles around the bikes and the lack of tie-down rings to lock the tailgate pad itself to your tailgate. But aside from those points, everything is top-notch. The padding is thick and feels high quality. The material I think will be very easy to clean, and everything just works well with the truck and the bikes, able to move them side to side and adjust those points depending on what kind of bikes we load up. So everything feels custom to the truck. It's a big reason why I'll probably be using this on my own truck in the coming months, and why I would probably recommend it to a lot of family and friends. But if you've got a truck and you're looking for something that's going to be top-notch and really high quality to carry a lot of bikes with you, then I think the Kuat Huk is going to be a great option. Thanks for watching.